When my wife passed, my son Brad said, "Dad, you can't bring Mom back, and my wife's birthday only comes once a year." Those words hit me like a slap in the face. The next morning he came to me with an important request, as if nothing had ever happened. I knew this was my chance to set the balance right for both the insult he dealt me and the mother who had raised him, and I took it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. It was 8:12 a.m. when I realized the house had a new kind of quiet, not the easy kind that descends after a long dinner, when a woman you love turns off a lamp and laughs from the hallway. No, this was the quiet that presses down from the ceiling and settles behind your ribs. I lay there for a moment, staring at the hairline crack in the bedroom ceiling that Helen used to say looked like the outline of a skinny dog running. She'd point at it every winter, standing on the bed with a paintbrush in her hand, threatening to fix it and never doing it. "Leave it," I'd say. "It's our good luck mood." Luck left the house the week she did. I got up and put on the same black slacks I'd worn 2 days before. I didn't need them. There was nowhere to go. Habit is a strange thing. It moves your hands before your brain has a plan. I brushed the jacket sleeve with the back of my knuckles, then let it hang on the chair. On the nightstand, Helen's reading glasses sat folded on top of chapter 14 of the paperback she'd been halfway through. She was a nurse. She liked medical mysteries because she could solve them early and still pretend to be surprised. The glasses were smudged. I could have cleaned them. I didn't. In the kitchen, the little white porcelain cup with a blue flower on the side waited by the sink. There was a faint lipstick ring on the rim. Sunday lipstick, she called it. She put it on for church, and sometimes for me. If we had nothing at all to do, I reached for the cup and then stopped. I didn't want to break the pattern of where it sat and how it caught the morning sun from the window over the sink. The light in Cedar Falls that week was thin, like it was running out of itself by mid-morning. 2 days earlier, the morning of the funeral, I had dialed Brad, 4 rings, and then his voice came on with music in the background. Bass heavy, the kind you feel in your MERS. "Yeah, Dad. Funeral starts at 11:30, I said, adjusting my tie like I used to before big bids at the construction office. "I'll save your seat up front." He cleared his throat. I heard Sam in the background shouting something about the bakery delivery and helium canisters. "Dad, I told you yesterday, Sam's birthday party is tonight. We've been planning for months. Your mother's funeral happens once," I said slow. And even the way Helen used to ask for a late check from a patient's family, she didn't want to embarrass. "You can't bring Mom back," Brad said, all lightness, "but Sam only turns 32 once. We've got caterers coming, and the DJs are already setting up. You understand, right?" The line went dead. Not even a polite goodbye. I stood there with the phone to my ear until the dial tone sounded like a fridge humming in a house without food. On the counter, the funeral program lay open with Bradley Warren printed under payback. I picked up a pen, one line careful and slow through his name. I thought I might throw up. Instead, I capped the pen and pressed the cap until it clicked the way a man closes a door and decides not to open it again. We buried Helen in a wind that cut through a suit jacket like it had an opinion. 23 people, church friends, neighbors who still remembered the summer she organized the block party. 2 of her fellow nurses wearing black cardigans and sensible heels that sank into the soft ground. Patricia, her sister, stared over my shoulder like Brad might materialize if she looked hard enough. "Where's Brad?" she whispered. "He had other commitments," I said. The words tasted like iron. Mrs. Henderson from across the street leaned in and patted my arm with a hand that smelled faintly of lilac. "She was always so proud of that boy," she said. "Talked about his new responsibilities at the company. Said you two were figuring it out." I nodded. "The pastor said something about eternal love and keeping faith." I watched the dirt hit polished wood and thought about a different kind of faith. The kind that insists your son will do the right thing this time because he knows you're watching. The kind that excuses his absence from chemo appointments because he's just busy. Helen's faith was a room she kept adding furniture to long after the floorboards sagged. On the drive home, I passed the bakery where Sam ordered cakes that cost as much as a truck tire. The window was fogged, and someone had written a heart in it with their finger. I drove past. I didn't want cinnamon rolls. I wanted to turn around and pull up to Brad's curb and knock until my knuckles bled and ask him a question he couldn't answer without the word sorry in it. I parked in our driveway and let the engine tick as it cooled. The key turned in the front door with the same tiny click that told me every night for 40 years that Helen was home safe. I hung my coat on the hook. She'd installed herself with a level and a pencil behind her ear and an expression that said she dared me to tell her. The line wasn't straight. The house made those little settling noises old houses make, like it's resisting the idea that the day is over. I stood there listening to it breathe. In the living room, Helen's favorite throw, a knitted thing she swore was hideous when she first saw it at a church raffle, and then used every night for 10 years, lay over the back of the couch. The brown leather chair I bought on clearance because I told the salesman, a chair is a chair, sat where it always sat, clashing politely with Helen's floral curtains on the mantel. The wedding photo in its silver frame captured her at 23, wearing her grandmother's lace dress and looking at me like the whole idea of time was a rumor we didn't need to believe in. I slept in that chair that night, not from grief, or not only grief, from a sense that lying in our bed would trick me into dreaming. She was in the bathroom brushing her teeth and humming the hymn she always hummed when she didn't want to talk. Dreaming is the cruelest kind of mercy. The morning after the funeral, the phone rang at 9:06. Brad. For a second I thought of letting it go. Then Helen's voice came back from somewhere. Not a ghost, just the part of me that she trained. Answer your son, Franklin. I touched the screen. Hey Dad, Brad said, breezy as July, checking in. How are you? I'm here, I said. Good. Good. So listen. Small hiccup. Sam's birthday was unbelievable. You should have seen the turnout. Anyway, with the upgrade on the liquor package and the late-night food truck. Her idea. But great call. We went a little over. I'm looking at about $145,000 on the card that we need to clear ASAP. You know how statements are. Could you just wire it to me? Today would be best. There is a version of me that existed right up until that second. The version that thinks he's my boy. It's not the hill to die on. The version that remembers Helen pressing a hand to my chest and saying, "Don't be too hard on him. He's finding his footing." That version was polite and steady and convinced he could manage disappointment like a small tax you pay for a lovely life. I looked at Helen's picture. I looked at the funeral program with the line through his name. I looked at the ledger of my tolerance. No, I said. There was a pause, the sound of a glass being set down a little too hard on a counter. What do you mean no is your bank? I'm not giving you any more money. Brad, you're seriously doing this now after the week we just had? His voice climbed a step, irritation shading into disbelief. Behind him I heard Sam say something like, "Tell him about the deposit for Cabo," followed by a muffled laugh. "You're 35, I said. "You've got a job. You fired me." He snapped, then tried to swallow it back. That was a fight for another day. He'd been drawing a salary in my construction company for years, the kind reserved for a project manager who showed up on time and returned phone calls, and didn't expense 112 lunches on days the site foreman couldn't find him. "Dad, come on, I'll pay you back." I let the silence sit. Men like me are made of it. "I understand," I said at last. "You what I understand. Take care, son." I hung up. The phone was light in my hand, the way a tool is light when you've used it the right way for once. When you say no for the first time after decades of yes, the air changes. It's like flipping a breaker and watching half the house go still. I went to my office at the back of the house, the room with the built-in shelves Helen painted a soft gray last spring. I opened the bottom drawer of the file cabinet and took out folders. Brad tuition, Brad house, Brad wedding, Brad car, Brad emergency. The word emergency had been stretched to cover a trip to Miami, a ski weekend, and a boutique puppy that turned out to be allergic to Sam's perfume. I set the folders in a neat row across the desk. Paper is honest if you let it be. I read the numbers like scripture. 4 years of college tuition, a down payment that would have bought Helen a new kitchen twice, a wedding that looked like a rental movie set, 2 cars, one temporary apartment paid for during a time when he transitioned between roles. A role is what a man calls a job when he wants it to sound like he can't be replaced. Vacations that were supposed to be experiences and ended up being debt. I smoothed out before it wrinkled their lives. I wasn't angry then. I was meticulous. Helen used to say I got very still, right before I made a big decision. She said it the way you say, someone has a nice singing voice, kind like it was an attribute rather than a warning. I pulled out the calculator I keep for bids and estimates, and let my thumb find its old rhythm on the buttons. The total number didn't scare me. The pattern did. Every check I wrote had a note in the memo line. Family helps family. I believed it then. I believe it now. The problem wasn't the checks. It was the exchange rate between help and respect. We were underwater and I hadn't noticed the tide going out. I made coffee I didn't drink, and sat with the smell of it. Helen's favorite roast that I was always going to learn to make the way she did. The morning sun angled through the blinds, and made little ladders of light on the desk. I remembered a night 30 years earlier, when a much smaller Brad slept between us because he had a fever, and I argued that he should be in his room, and Helen said, "Let him be small while he's small." She was always right about that. The trouble is, some boys learn how comfortable the middle is, and never want to climb back out. The doorbell rang at 11:03 a.m. No one rings before noon, unless they have a reason. I opened the door to Patricia, Helen's sister, holding a casserole in one hand and a sympathy card in the other. She hugged me like the past was a rope we could both still hold on to. "You look thinner," she said, then peered past me into the hallway as if she might catch a glimpse of Helen coming down with a basket of laundry. "I kept expecting him at the graveside," she added carefully. She didn't need to say the name. "He made other plans," I said. "Frank," she said, and that was all. Just my name, the way you say it when you're trying to move a heavy thing, and you know you can't do it alone. We stood there for a long half-minute. She put the casserole on the kitchen counter and looked at the lipstick ring on the cup and didn't mention it. That was kindness.